Happy Thursday, everyone, and welcome back to our No Code Ops live community show. I hope that you're doing well wherever in the world you're joining us from. And whether you're watching us now live or whether you'll be watching us in the future, I hope that you're okay. And actually, if you are here watching us now live, please let me know, drop a comment in the chat. I always like to see who's watching, and especially if it's community members, so that we can try and keep these events as interactive as possible. But if this is your first time here, then we are No Code Ops, and a professional community for people working in operations and leveraging the power of no code and automation. And so we gather here every Thursday, inviting expert speakers from the space. And so if you've been following our events, today is quite bittersweet because it's the last episode of a mini-series that we've been hosting with our expert speaker, Jessica de Oliveira, which I'm about to invite into the stage. Hi, Jessica. Happy Thursday.
Hi, everyone. Hi again.
So great to have you here again. I was just saying it's quite sad for me today because we've been having the pleasure to have your company for the past 2 weeks, and I've absolutely loved our series together. I've heard great feedback from the community and comments from people that have been watching the series. They've gained a lot of value and insights. So thank you so much for giving us this opportunity for the community.
I'm happy to. My goal is to spread as much information as possible. So I'm happy to be here and talk my talk, and hopefully that helps somebody out there.
Absolutely. And again, if you're here for the first time, Jessica de Oliveira, Head of Education at Mission Citizen, Tech Analyst, Educator at No Code Ops Academy. What else, Jessica?
I used to be a developer, so that's why I have a lot of this insight. Also, of course, as an analyst, analyzing no-code and low-code platforms, and of course, how to advance in your career using your no-code and low-code skills.
Awesome. And I can see Ilem from LinkedIn. Hello there. It was funny because I don't usually have my phone around me when I do live streams, or I mean, I do, but it's on silent. But today I'm charging it and it was just next to me and it kept on buzzing like No Code Ops is live on Twitter, LinkedIn, YouTube. I got all the notifications. I was like, oh, so if I get them, you guys are getting them too. So let me know who's watching us here right now. Awesome. And just in terms of, our mini series, what have we been covering? What's our journey been like? And what are we going to talk about today?
Yeah, so we started off just defining what a citizen developer is, talking about the differences between citizen developers and our ops professionals, where they are different, where they're the same, what skills they have, and how we can basically identify those skills that we already have, the skills that are like in demand that we may need to get, right? And just showing professionals how where they currently stand may be just enough to transition into the space, right? So how can you become a citizen developer? What tools should you be using? How to choose the right tool to learn and to build on. And today we're going to wrap up with how to translate the skills that you have onto your resume.
I love that so much. Love that so much. Actually, yesterday I attended an operations event here in London, which was great. I talked with, to so many interesting people, and it's just fascinating when you start talking to them about no code and automation. A few of them knew, but some others were like really interested, and it's fantastic to see. Throughout. I hope that people that have watched their series have really gotten the most out of the invaluable tips that you've been sharing, because something as easy as adding the automation skills or even no code in front of the role that you currently have can help you get that promotion, can help you get hired by another company if you're looking for another to advance in your career. So I do hope that, and I know from for a fact, because people have told me, these gems that you've been sharing, Jessica, are absolutely fantastic. So very, very fortunate to have you here. That's what I'm trying to say.
Well, I thank you guys too for just hearing me out. There is a lot that's changing in the world and in the workforce with tech, and we know that no code was a part of that change, and it's been on the rise for the past few years. So now, no code is becoming a part of work. Except a lot of people are still learning about it, like you just mentioned, that the operations events, people are intrigued, like, what's this new thing, right? Not knowing it's not that new, but it's okay because now we're going to show you it's not new, but you can get into it very easily, right? So today, I really just wanted to focus on putting our, let's back it up a little bit, putting our skills for to be a citizen developer. It says citizen developer, but showcasing our skills and showing up as a citizen developer, an ops professional, or a low code engineer. Any of those types of terms may relate to you, and if they don't relate to you right now, by the end of this, you're going to realize that they relate to you, right? So pretty much when you're showcasing yourself as someone who is a professional in the no code or low code space, you are going to have a resume, of course, that's standard. And you should also have a portfolio which showcases your work, meaning the things that you've built. And if you haven't built anything, like we said last week, go build something. So inside of your portfolio, you should also have references of anyone that you have worked with or worked for to show that your skills can be validated, and sample work that can show the hiring manager that you may be applying to just a snippet or a little bit of your talents as that refer or are specific to the position that you're applying for, right? So that's where you want to have as an entire portfolio of who you are. But what we're focusing on today is and really just looking at how we go from the skills that I have today into how to word them, or the things that I do at work and how to word them into like a bullet point on your resume. I'll give you a few examples. And then I think after the examples, you should have a pretty good understanding of how to do that for all of your skills or activities that you do at work. Right? So, just a recap from last week, we really focused on the three main skill categories that a no code developer or an ops professional or an engineer might have. And it's really just surrounded around project management, process management, and data management, because that's the skill or the role of a citizen developer or an ops professional is a, a standard position. So you might be a marketing manager, you might be a, a, a clinical rounds manager, you might be a nurse practitioner. Any industry, any department in any organization, you have a role. These skill categories are the categories that would be appended or are actually a part of the current role that you have, or they're additional to the role that you have if you're adding no code skills onto your resume, right?
Mm.
So, just to break down what this might look like in these skill categories, there's project management, which is pretty much just mapping out the tasks of a project or an event or something that needs to get done in your organization or your department, and just tracking how it's going to happen, who's going to do it, and what time it's going to happen in, and just documenting that process as you go along. Process management uh, is just literally mapping how we do what we do, who is doing it, and the intended outcome, right? And so in process management, you have to assess whether it's successful the way you want it or intended for this process to happen, or if it's not, what will you do or what changes will you make to optimize that process? And
And
of
how
course,
do you measure success there, for example, Jessica? Would that be something that depends on your company's goal, or because I guess it differs from, my mapping, my process management might be different from yours depending on the project
yeah.
potentially.
When we look there, there are a lot of like key performance indicators that we can utilize to look at assessing a process. But for the most part, if we want to keep it as basic as possible, it's going to be time and money. How much time does it take to get through this step of the process? What is the feedback from the people, the machines, or the software that's interacting in this part of the process? Is it making it through to the intended outcome? Right? So, is it taking too much time? Is it stalled? Is it moving too quickly? Is it missing a step? Any of those things that they can be used to assess whether your process is going as planned, right? So planning and mapping for the intended outcome is important, like to understand what is success for that process, and then you can go ahead and assess with time metrics or budget metrics. Is it costing us too much money? And sometimes too much time equals too much money. I know we talked about uh, how money is usually the bottom line last week,
Mm-hmm.
the decision maker for most organizations. And just chatting with folks, it's realistic that that's usually the final decision. Like, is it going to cost us more money, yes or
Yeah.
no? And that will make the decision. But that's usually one of the indicators to look at whether your process is up to par with your company standards, and they will give you some constraints or parameters in which you need to stay within. And pretty much, like, if your process isn't as optimized as you would like it, you all processes have a flow. So you can put in logical controls for decision making to make sure it goes the way that you would like it to go, and pretty much help to make the process better for the people and for the intended outcome, right?
Mm-hmm.
And so with data management, it's just structuring data in a place where it's stored, keeping that information updated, and showcasing that information to different people in different ways, right? So after just saying like all of these different things categorically, it seems like a lot, but really I just put it this way so you can understand what happens, even though these are just a few things, what happens in these categories. But this actually looks a lot simpler, like when you're at work, right? So, for instance, if you're already in no code or you're using a collaborative work management tool, developing an application, internal tools for your organization, you might need to create a dashboard. And to do that, you need to understand what information will be showcased in the dashboard. You need to make sure the data is clean. You need to make sure it's exactly what you need. There are no redundancies, things of that sort. And then you need to define the formulas and parameters for that dashboard to make sure it's showcasing the right information for you. And then you need to design an interface for it, right?
Mm.
That task in itself, it sounds like a lot, but it really just breaks down into simple things. We're talking about user design, interface design, we're talking about formulas, and we're talking about data. That can translate into using a spreadsheet, to be honest, like simply, right?
Would that be sort of, because I saw a question in the chat from Asher as well, like, and Jared as well. They were quite curious about this portfolio, and I know that also in the community we've had conversations about no-code operators having or creating a portfolio.
Mhm.
Would you say that this could be? So the question from Asher was, what's the difference between a portfolio and sample work? Because the way you're describing it right now, I immediately thought, okay, that's sample work.
Yeah,
Could that also be a portfolio? Is there a
yeah,
difference?
yeah. So when I use the phrase sample work, it was really your portfolio is sample work. But I recently made a portfolio of actual work that I did in the jobs that it aligned with the jobs on my resume. And in the end of my portfolio, I added an extra slide that had a hypothetical version of what I would do for that specific job. Any job you have in mind. So let's say the job was program manager position or it was a marketing manager position and they needed you to have no code skills and your portfolio already showed projects from your past positions, I would use the sample work slide to say, if you hired me, this is what I would be doing for you. And just give them a little bit. Don't give them too much. But that's what I would use like the sample work slide for, to make it more personalized to the position that you would be hired for, so that that hiring manager understands that you've thought this through. You could probably get on the ball instantly if we hired you right now. That's the reason why I use that extra sample work piece, just to showcase something that is personalized. Everyone loves something personalized to them.
Mm, I love that. I love that so much. And also, you don't want to overdo it as well. Like, you don't want to show like two, three different use cases, because that's, your portfolio or your sample work is just a step into, having that first conversation. So
Yeah.
if you showcase a few projects, maybe one maximum two, I would say, that you've done, and then I really love what you said about the hypothetical use case, because then at least it shows that you've been researching the company, and
Mhm.
again, that yes, that if they know that if they were to hire you, you would be ready to start. We have an interesting question from Alejandro on LinkedIn.
Mhm.
How do you handle confidentiality if you developed something while employed, but you want to use the portfolio to get other jobs?
That is a really good
Yeah,
question.
great question. Yeah.
It is. And most hiring managers are aware of this. You can just caption that this is, I'm under NDA, or under NDA, right next to like where you might hit a stopping point in your portfolio, or any words that, any caption that you want to use to describe a part of a project. I would actually, it's easier to do if you're having like a video based portfolio. So there's less for you to write. You can record in 2 minutes, run through what the problem was, the goal was, and just say, at this point, the rest of this project is under NDA, or this part of the project is under NDA, and just give a more vague, or like I said, and that's the purpose of the hypothetical. So maybe you might use a hypothetical in place of the thing that you can't actually say, right? Something that's a little bit more generalized.
Great. Great tip.
All right. So back to these, no problem, Asher. Back to these activities. Really, these activities that you do commonly at work, something like tracking case completions or deal progress and things like that, or creating an employee training. These are common things that happen in departments every day at work. But when we look at the activities, we want to kind of think of them, look at the jobs that you have, list out the things that you do every single day in that job, or every week to week, or in special or specific projects. And once you list those things out, you want to take a look at them and look at which categories do they fit in. Do they fit in project management, process management, or data management? And sometimes they might fit in a separate category, which is like an other category, where you might have some soft skills, or it might be like UI design. And those items are still, like, for instance, require project management, it requires research, right? In UI and UX design, you have to do some research. So if anything that you do doesn't follow necessarily strictly into these categories, it's okay. There's always like an other category that you can put those items in. Capture all of the things that you do every day and group them. Once you group them into these sections, then you can move on to translating them into like bullet points and words. The one thing that is always standard, no matter what your position is or where your starting point is going to be the keywords that align with your direct job, right? So if your
Right,
product,
because that was another question we had from the forum. Like, people are really interested into hearing about what are the keywords I should be using.
yeah. So for instance, and the reason why the keywords may be different is because every uh, ops professional or citizen developer has a core job. if you were here for any of the past sessions, you'd remember that we talked about the fact that like a citizen developer or an ops professional, well, not all of them, but for the majority of them, their main job is some other role, and being a developer in this nature is an added skill that they have that they're appending onto their role, right? So let's say you're a product manager. Product manager, you'd hear terms like voice of customer and user stories, right? In marketing, you'd hear about marketing KPIs. You'll talk about, even in that role, you use digital tools to automate and integrate like a funnel, things of that sort. So those standard words for the role still apply. Those keywords work perfectly. The added keywords that you want to use will be direct to your applications that you're utilizing, right? So, for instance, if you're creating a dashboard, you could say where we gather data, you collected and organize essential data from multiple data sources, right? And to ensure comprehensive and accurate application functionality. That's great. That's fine. That's simple, straight to the point. But the other thing that we want to also add in is what software, what method that we use, right? So you may be utilizing SQL or SQL, right? Or we may be utilizing standard visual relational databases, right? And most all of no code and low code platforms use relational data modeling, where we're taking entities or collections of information and connecting them to each other, right? So that is just the way we would look at this as a bullet point on a resume. But those added words we want to add in are going to be specific to the tools and the softwares that we're using and the people that we're interacting with, right? So, like for instance, we're talking here about developing and implementing custom formulas, right? This can go deeper. The reason why this ranges is because every role asks for something different. But let's say that you were actually going deeper into like engineering, you can then utilize this opportunity to say what languages you're utilizing when you're developing on a tool and what the tool was. You might be using out systems. You might be using Superbase, and you use SQL to create functionalities inside of their Superbase database. So whatever it is, utilize the software terminology and the methods that you're using inside that software. Okay.
And it goes both ways as well, because what we saw last week during our second episode as well is that those keywords that you are going to be using into your resume and your CV are also being used by those companies that are looking to hire in their job adverts. So if you go into LinkedIn and you look for your role plus the tools that you know how to use, say Airtable, Zapier, the basics of automation, you will see immediately how those keywords are highlighted into these job positions that companies are looking for.
Yeah,
Um,
and the reason why that's really important is because, you know, I just gave you a list of things that you should have if you want to show up digitally and visually in a certain way. But regardless to that, you'll stand out, but you have to actually get in the door first. And we have ATS software that, is, if you don't know what ATS software is, it's the software that kind of automates the reading of resumes that's to see if they actually match with the job description. And if they don't, no one will ever see your resume to begin with. So it's,
which is really sad.
yeah, unfortunately, a lot of things are automated for efficiency. But the idea here is to keep those industry and role specific keywords, because that's what's going to be in the job listing. And then you also check that job listing for any software related like hard skills that they are requesting. So I'm giving you what you do every day and what that might look like in a bullet point. But then when you add in the no code software and the skill that's aligned to it, then you have a more complete version of how you're going to show up, right? So you collected and documented job objectives to align with the development project for business goals using Airtable automation integrated with integration is a very important word that we will want to use. It shows that we know how to connect digital systems, automation, workflow. And the reason why I didn't really focus on these types of words, even though they're necessary for no code and low code, you still want to be able to get the main job. You have to have the main job under your belt first. You need to showcase those skills and then add on the no code and low code skills within that, right? So, for instance, if you're a program manager or you're a legal secretary that's organizing paperwork and data and whatnot, you need to have those primary skills first, and then talk about the softwares that you utilize to do your job, and the methods and skills used within that software, and the people you interacted with while doing that. Right. So that's your job description, your software skills, the methods that you used in the software, and the people that you interacted with while doing all of that. Okay.
I love that. Love
Yeah.
that so much. Lots of companies as well, like they use this STAR method. Do you know the
Mm-hmm.
STAR method? Like the
Not.
solution.
Mhm.
So like most, and this has happened to me as well. Like sometimes, when you have to kind of showcase your work, what you have to do. So there's this STAR method, which is, there's a situation that
Mhm.
you have to show, an action. So what kind of task are you taking ownership of based on that situation? Um, situation, task was the second one, and then the action for star. So then how did you act in order for you to complete that task? What was the goal?
Mhm.
And the R at the end is for result. So like how did that kind of help your company's goal? How did you achieve whatever you were set off to do? So that's also really nice for you to show during an interview, like that sort of process.
Yes, it's actually the I wasn't familiar with the STAR method, but that's actually how I set up the portfolio. So when you
Hmm.
take a look at your portfolio and your jobs are listed on your resume, you go back into your jobs and you look at what actual projects you did, and that's what you'll add to your portfolio. And basically at this point it's going to showcase the skills that you said you had on your resume. So last week we talked about choosing a platform, and it wasn't about choosing a platform, but it was about what problem you were solving. That's how you'll approach your portfolio as well, right? You'll capture what it is that you were doing, the objective or the outcome that was intended for the project, and the problem you were trying to solve. And then you'll move through telling a story. And some people might think they don't have projects. They might not have been called projects at your job, but if your boss told you we have a goal of reaching this number by this time, that's a project. Right? So, and what happened? How did you do it? How did you accomplish this? Right? How did you? What was the process? The people that you work with? How you want to tell a story in the sense that usually the resume it tends to kind of showcase the perfect version of you as a professional. The portfolio is where you're going to show up all of the things that went wrong.
All
Right?
cards on the table.
Exactly. All the things that went wrong because they want to see what did you do? Tell a story about what went wrong and show them how you made it right or what the outcome ended up being, right? Because a lot of times in organizations what happens is like you have a plan in your mind. It would be super cool if I could get someone to allow me to use this software and then I would make this app and we would be like automating so many things and it would be perfect. And then you put in a request or a proposal and they're like, well, how much is this going to cost? You put it in there and they're like, we don't have that in the budget right now. You have this much money. And that's actually a part of the conversations that I've been having, right? So, and that's the reality of everyday life in like real companies. And that's why I keep saying like it goes back to the bottom line, time and money, right? So
Hmm.
if you can showcase what actually happened when you try to accomplish a specific goal at work, tell that story, tell that outcome, and showcase how you can handle things coming out of left field and how did you rebound and get back on track and how did you stick to the project schedule, how did you stay within budget, How did you think about how were you thinking when you approached making the change? Was it, did you move in an agile way when you decided to make that change? Like all these things, all those words apply. So when you're building out your portfolio, you definitely want to tell that story and show some of the nitty gritty stuff that happened. Like a portfolio, in my mind, is not supposed to necessarily be totally perfect. It's just supposed to be something that's relatable and takes the reader or the listener on a journey of what you actually went through.
Yeah, storytelling is important these days as well, and people want to see how you react, to challenges and things that go wrong, because inevitably there's you're going to be facing those situations, and so companies are really interested to see, okay, how does this person react to those particular, to being under pressure or something that goes wrong. So yeah, that's really great. And I also wonder if anyone here who's watching today, if you're looking for a new role, or whether you'll be watching in the future, because we'll get the messages and the comments in the future. If you're looking for a new role, maybe let us know. Maybe let us know what your current role is, and see if we can give you some tips on what to
Happy to
do.
help. Yeah, yeah. And so, like, being that I have had to like showcase work the way everyone else is showcasing work, I found, we talked about last week how much of a challenge our current like work recruiting process is. It's kind of hard for no code and low code people to show up or be found in like on LinkedIn or Indeed and things like this, because it's still non-standard, unfortunately, and that's
Hmm.
why I come on here talking so much.
No, never too much, never too much.
So pretty much that's why I started like going through like building my own portfolio to figure out like what would I need if I needed to showcase my work and what I did, right? So we have like, so like no code apps has like the job boards, right? But a lot more people, those are people who are already aware of what no code is, right?
Hmm.
There are organizations that want these skills, but they don't even know where to start with like saying, hey, we want someone that knows how to do this particular thing, but we also want you to be a marketing manager. And they're like, and because they know that's like two different jobs, right? So the idea here is to showcase your work, make it easy for you to stand out from all the other marketing manager and legal assistants and every other role that has this under, their belt, right? So focus on, it's really not that hard, right? The purpose of doing this is really to show you that you have the skills. The language is not very different. The keywords that we're using, the idea here is to not sound too much like a developer, but use the development words and language that they know that you know what you're doing.
Hmm.
Agile development practice, software development life cycle, project management, budgeting, and focus on those words where managers and higher ups are like, oh, they know exactly what our problems are, right? So start talking about the budgeting and time constraints, because they're like, okay, yeah, that's our problem, right? Talk about process and optimization, efficiency, and data, right? Talk about how you manage your data, what tools you may have used, but also focus a lot on the problem, because that's
Hmm.
why they're looking to hire you, someone to solve the problem, right?
Yeah, and I guess, a good training strategy there could be also like to share what you've done on LinkedIn. Like, you don't necessarily have to go and write a portfolio straight away or a use case. You
Mhm.
can practice by sharing a solution that you've built, and I always encourage people in the community to do so, even in our chats. But show what you've done, even if it's just a little solution, even if it's just creating a database. But start building that story for yourself, start showing other people, because that's good training practice for you when you're going to be facing a recruiter, you're at an interview, and you have to repeat that process of you showcasing your work. You might have done that before, maybe with your friends, maybe with your community members, maybe with your network on LinkedIn, but you have that practice, and so you'll also be a little bit more confident. Yeah.
Yeah, and even if you're brand new and you don't have any projects under your belt, right? Even if you make something small, like Claudia said, just showing that you've taken that initiative. That's the
Mm.
thing that, a lot of people put I'm a self-starter on my resume on their resume, but we haven't actually been like bred into environments where we can be self-starters, right? No code, and in the no code environment, this is where you being a self-starter actually shows up in your work, right? So you take that initiative to make something, and it's not aligned with a particular job that you have, but you want to get into it, look around you and find a problem to fix and go make a solution for it. Start working.
Absolutely, and like you're not alone. I think I wrote that in our for our description of this event today. So you're not alone. If you feel like you're maybe out of this market, you'd like to get in, it's overwhelming, you don't know where to start. Well, first off, watch the first two episodes that we recorded, but also again share it on LinkedIn, on X, Twitter, however you like to call it. But be open, be curious, be open to learn, and be open to share with other people. Just say, and that worked for me, and I'm sure it will for anyone else. But just like SQL that we've been mentioning for 2 episodes here,
Yeah,
if you've been hearing about this word and you don't know what it is, you realize that it's something that might be important for this particular field, look for people that can teach you, look for mentors. We have mentors in the community, but also look on LinkedIn, or write a post about SQL, do a little research, say that you would like to learn more. And people really really do magic things when they get together, and that's why we have communities and these amazing resources and great people like Jessica come here every week teaching you and giving you her insights. So do be open, and allow yourself to grow.
definitely, definitely, and join communities like No Code Apps.
Absolutely. Jessica, should we get a few questions from our forum?
Yes, most definitely.
Because we had a few questions here, and if you're still watching, this is your time. I'm just gonna put this here. So drop your questions in the chat. We're starting a little Q&A. So let me pull up the form. So, question from Suraj. I'm a systems coordinator managing automations particular to automation. Automations particular to okay. Let me just copy and yeah, because I'm just like reading it now, and sometimes I have to interpret what you guys write down in the form. All right, I'm a systems coordinator managing automations. I'm just gonna leave it there. How can I make my CV look impressive to the eyes of recruiters?
Okay, I would first ask, are you looking for another coordinator position for automation, or are you going into a specific industry? You always start with the industry first. And as far as standing out or being impressive about it, I would focus once again on solving problems, right? So if you know whatever industry you're going into has a common issues that there's software built to solve this issue, there I've been in this environment and this is the constant problem that they're dealing with, but they never have a problem or a fix. Come up with something, right? Get your sample work. Don't give them the exact. Don't give them exact. You want to just give them a sprinkle of all your goodness, and then hopefully you'll stand out more from the other people in the space. Just having you're managing automations already. If you're going into a space where like automation or no code is the main job, your work is what's really going to make you stand out. So even if you don't have work, like I said, finding a problem that doesn't have a solution and then creating one for it is a really great way to say, like, one, I've taken initiative. Here, I've solved a problem that no one is actually paying attention to.
Absolutely. And I guess we've been talking about getting hired or finding a job from an operator perspective, right? We have a
Mhm.
question here from who I believe might be an agency owner or a consultant. So
Mhm.
his name's Joel, and they say, what is the best way to find new clients that need no code consulting?
Uh, if you're on LinkedIn, that is like an ocean of a lot of when during the pandemic, of course, it was a very specific situation. But I did a lot of my consulting as a developer and in automation during pandemic because everyone needed to get online. But one of the main things that I learned was that I was working on everything that everyone asked me to do. And we spoke about this in one of our past sessions, is that as an agency owner, you don't want to be the agency of all trade, right? The first thing I would say, the best way to get new clients is to focus on a very specific thing. If you are an agency that creates portals, make portals specifically for manufacturing automation and focus on that very specific problem. And I'm saying manufacturing because that is like the latest thing that I've seen that has been up,
A
right?
lot of
And
traction. Yeah.
yeah, a lot of traction behind manufacturing. And if you take a look at the way the world is going right now, a lot of things are falling off, but some things are staple in our global society. And, manufacturing, supply chain, and logistics, things like that are, we can't live without them. We can't live without food. We can't live without water. So when you look at the problems that you're solving, take a look at where there is high demand and a little, low friction or competition for you, especially if you're starting out. But as far as getting new clients, focus in a niche space that you are the master of.
Thali says, Jessica is teaching superhero storytelling. Awesome. She is indeed part of our No Code Avengers team at No Code Ops. Absolutely a superhero. Let me get this other question here that I saw. Do you rely on platforms like Upwork or do you prefer Outreach more?
I think that Upwork can make a barrier to entry, especially for new consultants. It's like saying I want you to have experience, but you don't provide on-the-job training for new people coming in. Upwork's kind of like that. You kind of have to have a portfolio, but that's another reason why you should have a portfolio. There's a little bit of a barrier to entry with Upwork, but I would say that if you are a personal brand for your agency, you're branding it as a personal brand. Outreach outreach to people. And like I said, LinkedIn is like an ocean of potential clients. And once you narrow down your niche to who you want to speak to, that makes it that much easier, because then that means you're not looking to, you don't know who to reach out to first. You know exactly who you're speaking to, you know exactly what their problems are, and you know exactly how to speak to them because you know what their problems are, right? So I'd say that I would use a combination of both. If you don't have a portfolio, start on LinkedIn. Don't wait. Build a portfolio and then start using sites like Upwork.
I love that. Would you recommend any other platforms, or would you say LinkedIn is a good enough platform for anyone to either find a job as a no-code operator or find clients for agencies and consultants?
For agency and consultants, believe it or not, go offline. Your local neighborhood, you will find businesses that need your services.
I love that so much. Yeah, I used to do that when I had a little time as a designer.
Yeah.
I would just literally go to a cafe that I particularly liked, or notice that they had a really bad website, and be like, "Hey, I look after your website. I love your coffee. Just let me redesign this for you."
Yeah, and it actually is, it doesn't even have to be like super professional. It could just be like casual chatter. Like, and because you keep it casual, that person remembers you as a person. And then when they
Mhm.
do need something, they know who they're looking for when they do need someone to solve their problem. But usually when you're going offline, uh, sending a nice email that's simple and just says, hey, who I am, and focus on solving the problem. I solve this problem this way. Wondering if you were needing my services. Really straightforward.
Absolutely. Do you think that falls under this other question here, which is not really a question, but more of asking for your opinion on inbound leads generation versus outbound effectiveness? Inbound lead gen.
If you're going to focus on inbound primarily, you have to have like an airtight system or process on how people are finding you, right? Are they going through some sort of marketing funnel or something of the sort? Like that gets really techy, right? So that gets really like a whole bunch of systems. I'd say start off outbound and say, hey, I'm here. This is what I do. because people are looking for solutions to problems. They're not looking for people, right? So if you're saying, hey, I noticed that you said you had this problem, take a look at this, or maybe we can chat about it. I think that outbound is great for anyone beginning. You have to show it, and you can't be afraid. I used to be this way. You can't be afraid to like reach out to people and just chat. And sometimes some people feel like everyone's so salesy, someone's always selling something. Just start off with a few suggestions or tips to point them in the right direction, in the direction that will eventually lead to you. Because a lot of the times you could give someone a few tidbits, they'll eventually hit a wall where they need more help and they don't have the expertise. Then they'll know to reach out to you,
Mm-hmm.
right? So just extend some nice gestures sometimes. That always leads to something in the future.
Absolutely, absolutely. I guess that's all the questions we had for today's session. But not to worry, I'm going to pack all these 3 episodes together, make a little nice, cute little playlist for you all, put a little bow on top of it, and you'll get a chance to watch all the episodes together. You'll find them on our YouTube. I'll send the recording, all the things that I do every week. So, Jessica, I guess before we wrap up, what's your prediction for 2025? No code, automation, job market, end of the world. Tell me.
It will be the end of the world if we don't get it together in no code automation and in the job market. But yeah, my prediction is that we are moving into a space where software, or our ability to use that software, will determine whether we can hold on to the positions that we have. We right now, we're in a space where a lot of technology is doing a lot of the work that we do every day. So you have to get on board with understanding the technology, how it works, and where you fit in, because people manage technology. Get on board with no code and low code. For those who are not tech savvy, you don't need to learn how to code anything. Get into no code ops community, or get on board with learning how to build something. And let's not let technology take over what we're great at or what we love to do, and let's just be a part of the growth of technology, pretty much.
Absolutely. Let's keep that human in the loop process that we like
Yeah.
so much in certain apps and tools that we use. And again, I highly recommend connecting here with Jessica. I just shared her profile in the chat. So go ahead and connect. As you can see for yourselves, she's an amazing wealth of knowledge and just like kindness and talent, all in one person. So I'm so fortunate and so happy that I've met you this year, Jessica. It's been such a pleasure to have you here. It's so great to have you in the community as well, and just to watch the impact that you have on people, and for you to help us do the same. It's an honor. So I thank you for your time, and I hope that you have a great rest of your week. And let me know if we want to do something together in the future before 2025. Let's regroup.
Yeah, thank you everyone.
Absolutely. All right. Well, I think we have a few more episodes at No Code Ops before we kind of take a break for the summer. As you can see, it's really hot outside. I struggle with these live streams. The Wi-Fi struggle with these live streams when it's too hot. So we're getting to that point where we need a break. But we do have a few episodes left. So stay tuned. Watch out for the announcements in the community. And I will see you all very, very soon. Jessica, have a great day and take a lot of care. Bye. Bye, everyone.